Welcome to Construction, the podcast of the Tulsa District Corps of Engineers. We are coming to you from Midtown Tulsa, Oklahoma, from the site of Cityplex Towers. Today, I'm actually joined by Joey Cabay. Joey is the metalworker leaderman for the Ensley Engineer Yard in the Memphis District. And you might be wondering, well, what does Joey have to do with the Tulsa District, which is way over in Oklahoma? Joey, tell us about what your guys do out in Ensley at the shipyard.
Sure thing, Brandon. So basically, we're a facility that has 3 dry docks, and all of the core vessels, mostly from Memphis south to New Orleans, we specialize in repairing them. These vessels beat themselves up all year long, doing the work on the river from dredging to grading the banks, and there's all kinds of different operations that go on. And after those boats are beat up for a year, they bring them into us. We put them up on the dry docks. We fix holes, dents, and then new fabrication, new equipment that might be needed. And we stay booked up year after year, just trying to catch up with taking care of the needs of those vessels.
And now dredging, you were saying it beats up a ship or a barge, as we say it. Can you talk about a little bit about how often you see the same barges or ships that come through, just in terms of the type of damage that gets done to them?
So the dredge Hurley is based out of Memphis, Tennessee, and it's a 348-foot long dredge. So it's a huge ship with a large crew. And this thing has what we call a dust pan. So it kind of looks like the little handheld dust buster vacuum cleaners that gets lowered down right in the front of the boat. And that thing just eats up dirt on the bottom. Well, that process it's not cookie cutter. There's huge rocks, trees. And with this vessel moving across the river, running into this type of stuff, it just destroys the front end of that boat. They've hit dikes, you name it, nudging up against other barges as they make tow. You're just beating metal into each other, and it creates a lot of damage over the year.
How thick is the metal that comprises the barge, or at least the part that would get hit?
In a typical crew, we've got a lot of units out on the river, and we've worked for you. We've got vessels that come from Tulsa as well. I'm just focusing in on our main areas, Memphis to New Orleans, and everything working on those rivers. Not just the Mississippi tributaries. We're fixing those vessels as well. But the metal, wherever you're at in the country, as long as it's inland, you're going to see a lot of 3/8 material. You're going to see 1/2 inch. You're going to see inch, 3/4. Depending on what part of the boat. If it's in the front and it's running aground, a lot of these barges are pushed up against dirt embankments. You're going to see an inch cladding kind of in the front as an armoring. But the body of the vessel, the most common, if you had to bet your paycheck on what you're going to see the most, it's 3/8.
3/8 of an inch?
Yes, sir.
Oh wow, that's pretty.
About like that.
Oh wow. So how long does it take how long does it take to cut through that, because you have to cut out a section, right, and then replace it, or how does that work?
So what we do is, we're talking dry dock work here now. So if you come in, I've replaced bathroom doors before. So if you come in for maintenance and you don't need us to access your hull or your propellers or your rotors, you can just pull up. We've got a mile-long dock system we call the string out. It's a metal dock. It floats up and down as the river level moves with 3 dry docks attached to it. If you need your bathroom door replaced, you can pull right up there and we can do that work without putting you on a dry dock. More extensive repairs, if it doesn't have to do with the hull, we can do there too. We're doing a room addition to the Hurley. They could park right there and we can add rooms just like a typical construction site. But say you've got an area that needs to be cropped out, as we call it, on one of the dredges, and we're going to get you up on dry dock. We're going to do a sounding. So we're going to go through with an ultrasonic device and we're going to find out. The engineers will prescribe a grid. They may say, hey, 4x4 all over the boat. We're going to get that sounding back, determine what's rotted. Every vessel in our fleet, your fleet, they've all got rot somewhere. The river's hard on these boats. And so we're going to find out. Right now, we've got one on dry dock. It's a 40-foot by 40-foot section. So we're going to go in, we're going to cut all the plate loose. We're going to brace it up. We spend a week and a half just bracing things so that this thing doesn't start to move in a way we don't want to or it isn't prescribed. We're going to get the plate out of there. We're going to get the structure, and then we're going to start to replace it section at a time. If you want, you could. We never do a repair smaller than 2 foot by 2 foot. It's kind of one of the rules we go by. But let's say you had a 4 foot by 4 foot section and some structure inside there that was bad. It wouldn't be unthinkable to have that done in a day and a half.
Really?
If everything was ideal. Typically what happens is we get in there to do a small section like that, and as we start to cut, the damage area grows. We start to see more rot, more places in need of repair, and it just gets larger and larger until we've gotten all the rot out or the diseased portion of the boat out.
Now, you talked about, it sounded like you were talking about non-destructive inspections earlier with the sound, they put the gel on the,
yes,
and then they use the ultrasound type deal to basically send the waves through the metal to tell you, here's where the weak points are. That's
what we do. And we're just looking, so there's several different devices like that. We're just looking for a thickness report on that phase. So we're not using that for weld testing. We have that capability. We have 2 CWIs in-house. We're going to do a lot of dye penetrant testing because we're doing thousands and thousands of feet. I mean, we had a dredge from North Carolina. We rebuilt the whole vessel practically. That's still ongoing. And the boat we've got out here now, or it's a mooring barge for Vicksburg. I'm not sure how long it is exactly, but I know it's as long as the Hurley. So you're talking 300 plus feet, cutting out 40 foot right in the center of the boat by 40. We're cutting the front end of the boat off. When we're done with that, you've got a half a mile of welds. So the easiest and most productive way to test that is to spray dye penetrant on it. CWIs will go, it highlights bad areas, and then anything that they circle, they want repaired. They'll go back through a second time and make sure that they're pleased and everything meets code.
They run like a black light over it or whatever to see the dye penetrant, or
that is one that's a very specific. Typically, what we're using is it's one that bleeds red. So you put on the developer and it's white, and those bad areas will just show up just dark red stains.
Oh, okay. So like people who now to the people that do that, they're also doing the welding and the metals work, or is that a whole separate section? Okay, wow. So
we're growing. So we started out this road. I give my chief a lot of credit. He's been here approximately 15 years, and he came in and started implementing standards and procedures that were more common in more elite industry metalworking. And so we have had a CWI on for the last 3 years, but that CWI is a working CWI, just like I'm a working foreman. So we're out there.
What's a CWI, Joe?
Certified Welding Inspector.
Okay.
So in the metalworking field, it's a big deal. A lot of education. The testing is extremely hard, and they're the person on site that can tell you your welds aren't cutting it. In the private sector, that's the quickest way to get shown to the gate. You get 3 welds on a lot of these jobs that the CWI doesn't like. They weren't repaired properly, and you'll be looking for a new job. So they've got a lot of power, a lot of education, a lot of responsibility. Because when he signs off on that repair, he's saying that it's going to go down the river and it's going to do its job. And those guys that aren't metal workers no longer have to worry about that area. So we have to. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. What were you saying?
I was just saying we have 2. It's a department that's growing. Next fiscal year, we're looking for a 3rd. And eventually, I see down the future, it may be years from now, to where they won't touch metal. They will just be doing inspections.
All right. So all those people who work in aircraft and non-destructive inspections in that world might have some experience in that you guys will be looking for essentially in that.
Absolutely. So I'm positive that we'll have another one running, at the end of and then you're starting to have a department now. It's not just one guy. The problem with us right now, just keeping them doing the inspections, is we need all hands on deck. We're several years behind. More and more vessels need us. They want to come here because of the work we do. And it's just, if you've got, typically your certified weld inspectors in this industry are phenomenal metal workers. So we're putting you to work. If you've got a guy with 20-something years as a metal worker in the field, and we've got a vessel like this one I'm talking about now, they want it done before Christmas. We're working 7 days a week on it, 12-hour days. I mean, we're putting you in the game.
Oh, that's a lot of overtime you guys are putting out there to stay afloat.
Yes, sir. It's part of this industry. I think I'm safe to say that the guys in this industry look for that overtime. There's levels to it. So I had over 1,000 hours of overtime September this year.
Oh, wow.
Yes, sir. And that's not the most in my unit. There are guys that had quite a bit more than that.